Hertha Ayrton was an extraordinary woman and also happens to be the first female member of this institution. She was born in 1854 as Sarah Marks, the third child of a Polish-Jewish watchmaker. Her father died in 1861, leaving Sarah's mother with 7 children and an 8th expected. In spite of the temptation to keep her daughter at home to help with the upbringing of the younger children, her mother Alice Marks was determined that the family's difficult circumstances were not going to stand in the way of Sarah's obvious intellectual capabilities. In 1863, Sarah's aunt, Marian Hartog, offered to take her to London to be educated in the school she ran with her husband. At the Hartog School, Sarah established her reputation both as a scholar and a fighter in the cause of justice, once going on hunger strike for 2 days when wrongfully accused of some misdemeanour. It was this principle which later led to her committed involvement with the suffrage movement. She was always keen to promote the idea of women's fitness to vote through her own achievements in a male-dominated field, but she was never shy of making herself prominent in the political arena. She took part in marches and demonstrations and offered her home to women released from jail after being on hunger strike, including Mrs. Pankhurst. At the age of 16, she became self-sufficient, working as a governess, but she still had a desire for her own education. An introduction to Barbara Lee Smith Bodicon in 1873 led to her applying to Girton College, of which Madame Bodicon was one of the founders. At college, Hertha is renowned for the mental agility which led her to seek out practical applications to any problem, and while still a student, she invented a device for recording pulse beats and a line divider. After leaving college, she returned to teaching as a means of supporting herself, but continued her own education at the same time, attending classes at the Finsbury Technical College. Her lecturer was Professor William Ayrton, who became president of the institution in 1892. He and Hertha were married in 1885. For some time after their marriage, domestic responsibilities took up much of Hertha's energies. She was never particularly physically strong and had already had to defer her studies at Girton because of poor health. She did, however, keep up some of her own work, and in 1888 gave a series of lectures for women on electricity. When Barbara Bodicon died in 1891, the legacy she left to Hertha enabled her to employ a housekeeper and give her attention more fully to the challenges of scientific research. At this time, Professor Ayrton was engaged in research into the electric arc, but when a paper he was due to present was accidentally destroyed, Hertha took over the project while the professor turned his attention to other matters. The arc lamp, widely used at this time for lighting in streets and public buildings, could be problematic because of its tendency to hiss, with the result that the light produced was apt to be inconsistent. Hertha's experiments demonstrated that if the arc could be protected from direct contact with air, the hissing and the subsequent reduction in performance of the lamp could be prevented. In 1895, she published a series of articles in The Electrician on the subject, and in March 1899 was the first woman to present a paper to the institution. She was elected to full membership of the institution just 2 days later. For over 100 years, Hertha remained the only woman to have been awarded the Huys Medal, which she received in 1906 for her work on the arc and on sand ripples. Over the next few years, she continued her experiments on ripples, constantly refining them to answer the criticisms of her results. At the outbreak of the First World War, she began to apply the theories she had developed about oscillations in water to the movement of air. This led to the invention of the Ayrton flapper fan. She encountered some difficulty in getting the military to consider her idea, but her invention was eventually adopted and used to clear the trenches of poisonous gas. After the war, she continued with her work in this field, until her death in 1923.